Hey, everybody. I hope you're having a great Friday. And we are here to drink and have some whiskey. Well, I mean, drink and have some whiskey kind of goes together. Anyway, I hope you had a great week. Weird week. just a just a very, very bizarre week. But glad you all are here and glad that you're joining here tonight. That sounds wonderful. And there's a lot to talk about. I think I may have again a guest. This is going to be week 2 of me messing up getting a proper guest on, but this just means more time for your comments, your questions, other things. And yeah, we won't go quite as long tonight. It's been a weird. Hello, everybody. It's been a very weird week, certainly, and it's continues a streak of insane news, kind of hitting right as we go on. Of course, it was yesterday. And fortunately, the whole comic industry has been very nice and graceful and kind about the news that the president has the COVID virus. So thankfully, absolutely no sarcastic tweets. Just generally like, let's just calm it down, focused on the issues at hand. Nothing crazy, nothing nuts. Just calm, normal times. Anyway, I am absolutely drinking today. So we are drinking. Hibiki, a Japanese Harmony whiskey. This is really nice. I'm trying it with some frozen rocks in here, and it's been really, really nice. This is a nice smooth whiskey. It's going to destroy my voice, so that's why I think we'll go about an hour, maybe a little bit longer than that. Certainly answer your questions, see what's going on. Robert, I promise you next week. Okay, if you can hang on next week, I will have you on, and thank you very much always for welcoming. You're always a great guest. At any rate, but in general, I was promised a lot of big bombshells were going to drop this week from the world of comics. There was a lot of, I guess, a lot of comments that we would get some pretty big news. That didn't really happen. We didn't get big news. So either some stuff's going to trickle in over the weekend, or next week's just going to be absolutely packed. I think in terms of kind of what to look forward to before we get to the real stuff. And by the way, thank you all for joining. Again, it's always great that we're able to hang out and have a good time on a Friday. The things to look forward to, again, just laying it out there. We are fairly imminently, we're going to get the news of what kind of additional layoffs are going to go on at the Walt Disney Company, what's going to hit Marvel. That is coming. The parks, Walt Disney Parks and Resorts did a pretty massive round of layoffs. The operation side is, I'm hearing, getting a lot of that news today, and I think we'll trickle into next week. And then they typically move into kind of their licensing and their product department, other things, and that ultimately will be Marvel. So no guarantee, absolutely, and hopefully the people are all safe, they have their jobs, but a lot of people are bracing for that news, and I think it's kind of expected. Marvel did some furloughs and some kind of downsizing quietly earlier in the year. And maybe that's going to be enough. But I do expect that, hopefully, again, not great news for everybody, but that's one piece. The other kind of bit of relatively big news that I'm told we were supposed to get this week, but maybe next week, is that we are going to get some news into what the new creative teams are going to look like at DC, and in particular, who's on Justice League, who's on the Green Lantern, and some of these bigger books. We're going to start to see this coming out. It's inevitable. I mean, the news is going to back into us sooner rather than later. Anyway, in about 2 to 3 weeks, solicitations will need to start rolling out for February, or for January. So we're right up against it, and I think that, from what I am told, we're going to get a really clear picture, kind of like we did with what Tynion did with Joker War, in terms of what's going to go on with the Batman world. So we're gonna hear who some of those creators are. My firm belief is that it's going to be a lot less exciting than we think. In terms of, when I say exciting, I don't think you're going to get like super woke DC. I don't think you're going to get like suddenly John Byrne and Art Adams and all these legends are going to be coming in. I think it's just going to have a fairly clear picture, and I think what we're seeing in Batman is a pretty clear picture of what we're getting other places. But anyway, in terms of other things that are going on, hey, what's coming out this week? Let me get this banner off so we can properly see this tweet. How crazy is it that it takes the president getting COVID for this bit of promotion from Cena Grace with his new book to be one of the classier things posted today on Twitter. But at any rate, I'm just going to make people just burn that into your brain while you put that out there. Good for him. He's out there promoting his book, but the paper cuts are this is a bad idea. I mean, I'm just saying this is not what you want to do for yourself. But next week is a big week of comics. We get Batman, the conclusion of the Joker War with Batman 100. We're getting Spider-Man 49 or 850, depending on how you like to count and how many anniversary issues you really want to get in a month. We are getting 2 Ten of Swords books. We're getting another Thor. We're getting another Deceased. Those are kind of the big things that are going to really move in comics. But if you've been a fan of Decorum or the We Only Find Them When They're Dead, or now as I'm talking, the chat pictures are coming in. There you go. There's a pretty decent amount of some indie stuff. I know Spy Island. We got some fans of that. Adventure Man is got some fans. Moonshine. So there's a couple indie books that are kind of really out there. I know a lot of people are really into My Little Ponies Transformers. Is that crossover? We have the second issue of Rob Liefeld's Snake Eyes. So next week is one of the bigger weeks in a lot of ways for comics. We are, finally Outlawed is kind of sort of coming up to speed. I mean, if I'm Marvel at this point, I'm probably not. I mean, you got to have a different game plan for Outlawed. We have a brand new Champions being launched. That series is going on in Miss Marvel, but it's like, how do you get any attention to any of that with everything else they have going on? But anyway, this is what's going on. Don't do this with your comics. It's bad for grading. I mean, look at a lot of that. There's no bags on a lot of those things. You're wrecking those comics. And again, paper cuts. I'm just saying. But anyway, curious what you have on your poll list. Sorry, there are some IDW books, and this isn't inclusive of everything, but this is quite a bit. I'm a big fan of Lock and Key. I think that's going to be a really good book to come into. I know a lot of people are not the biggest fans of Tim Seeley and Muddy Shaw, but I really like that book. I think it's a really good one. And Sacred Six has got some good buzz. So again, lots of everything. And there you go. So a little bit of something for absolutely everyone. But in terms of kind of the big sellers, obviously, I think Spider-Man, Batman, the Ten of Swords books, that second Justice League Death Metal tie-in, Thor. So that's going to move some nice titles in the comic shop. And nothing wrong with that. We like a good variety is good. Okay, so getting off that image, thought I'd throw this up just for for completion's sake. If you're into Ten of Swords, I've had some real arguments with X-Men fans, and I get it. If you're into all this kind of stuff, then this mini titles is good for you. But still, this is a big event, and we're 5-ish issues into it, depending on how you're counting kind of the free comic book day, the 2 prelude issues. But we're finally getting around to all the mutants getting their swords. Going to have some Contest of Champions stuff going on here, and I think, by the way, if you're looking at this picture here, I'm thinking the real battles are not coming till we get to chapter 10 in there. I think Stasis is really where the fight comes. I think we're in for like at least another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 issues of kind of getting the swords together. So I feel like the real fighting's not hitting till we get to that third row there, but maybe not. We'll see. The comic is, I did a video on this. I don't think it's run yet. And by the way, while you're here, I mean, please ask your questions, get everything in. This isn't meant to just be a nice PowerPoint presentation for everybody to see. But I think that this series kind of identifies a problem the comic book industry has. And when I say problem, I mean it this way. The industry is really obsessed with this idea of we got to get new readers. And it's a good idea. If you run a comic shop, you want new readers too. Everybody wants new readers. The challenge is this series is not new reader friendly. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who are coming into it relatively new to comics, but if you picked up, say, Ten of Swords Creation, that's confusing as hell if you're a new reader. That's not going to appeal to you. Now, you could say, hey, no problem. Not every comic needs to appeal to a new reader, and you're right. But at the same time, if you're saying we need to appeal to a new audience, and then you're doing this, and then you've got so many of these comics in your lineup, and then you got people saying we should cancel all the comics and reboot them completely for new readers. I mean, you have a lot of conflicting messages, and it's like you need to get companies on the same page. It's definitely needed here. All in, you're about $120 plus, I think, if you want to go all in on this event. But there you have it. I see a nice question on The Boys. I definitely want to get to that. I'm curious who all's reading, watching that show right now, and are you guys liking the fact that Amazon Prime's releasing only 1 episode a week and kind of stretching it out? That's driving me nuts. I I don't necessarily want them all on one day. I think that gets to be a glut, and I think that it benefits the people who have no real job or life, who are able to just stay up all night and then tweet about it incessantly the next day and spoil it for everyone. But I mean, like putting one out every other day, or I mean, it's the dragging out is really tough. So I mean, for me anyway. So I'm curious what you think of it, and then I'm curious if anybody's in chats watching Raised by Wolves. That was a pretty crazy show, and the season finale was yesterday, and that was a nuts season finale. So anyway, curious what people think about that. Over on DC, by the way, death metal. This is at least, and I don't think it's inclusive because DC keeps introducing more. I haven't kept this thing up, but we're about halfway through this thing now, and it's how's that going? This had a lot of buzz coming in, but I'll be honest, I talked to other retailers. I spent about 4 hours today with a good buddy in the area, and it's not it's selling, but the super hyped up excitement is not there anymore for death metal. So I'm curious what you think of this. It doesn't feel like it's it just has really come down. So yeah, it's I don't know. Again, a lot of people still excited about it. I'm curious what people think in the chat, but just the buzz is not there anywhere close to where it was. So maybe it's just me, but curious to hear what people think. Hey, really quick, let me just do this. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, the background went away. Bummer. Anyway, so in terms of some questions here. We talked about the boys here. We talked about how much things are. This is a good comment. So I wanted to hit on this. Yeah, a lot of comics YouTube is 90% the big two, which makes sense because the comics being sold are not quite that, but it's up there. I mean, the percentage of YouTube videos are largely percentage of big two. And I'd love to get some better feedback on this from this audience and others. I'm inserting more indie book reviews. I've got about 4 more that are, I think, going to come up over the next 2 days. And I'm going to space them out. But I'm trying to put more and more attention to indie books. When I do that, I will get feedback. And you don't really, I mean, I read the YouTube comments. I think my comments are not quite as great as they used to be. But, you get people in there saying, nobody cares about this. I get emails sometimes saying I don't care about this. I'm going to keep doing it because I don't care. No, I want everybody to be happy. But it's not about money. A lot of YouTubers are trying to make advertising revenue. And so if they're going to do that, they're going to gravitate to the 90%. So that's why you get a lot of, and that's where the drama happens. And it's just how it tends to go. Anyway, here, so a bunch of little comments here on weekly. You're talking about the boys here and how the show is released. Yeah, it does, but I think it's too much water cooler value, and nobody's at the water cooler anymore. I mean, metaphorically, right? I just think you need to speed it up just a little bit. Anyway, it's tough. Yeah, it is cool that Batman Max #4 is finally coming out. It's nice to see how that finally resolves itself. This is a problem. Hey, from the splintering. Yeah, TV is tough, right? So a lot of series start out good, and then they either get too over anxious and they start changing the writers around, and you get a very different season. It's tough. And I've taken to this too. I don't jump on as early to shows. I usually like to have them run out. Like I said, I got into Raised by Wolves, and it was I don't know why. I didn't expect much out of it, and it wound up being a very, very different show from what I expected. And it was a fun read. The interesting part of that show is if you really hate an episode, you watch the next episode, and it's like, hey, it's completely different. But anyway. Hey, Yule, who runs a good to see you, by the way, Yule. Yeah, the main series, you're talking about death metal here. Yeah, it's not, I don't think it's selling nearly as strong as people thought. And yeah, it's a lot of craziness, for sure. Yeah, Raised by Wolves, very complex, a lot of gaps. Well, I mean, yeah, if you've watched just the first 3 quarters, curious to see what you think of that finale. The finale goes all in on all kinds of insanity there. Jerry Conway was right. No more events. So events are so tough, right? Because events they sell. I mean, the reality is events are in some ways carrying the comic industry. So on one hand, you're like, yeah, I would like to see less events too. On the other hand, the business models of the big two, which represent so much of a percentage of the industry, have so gone in on events that they can't pull back at this point. It's like they're screwed to some extent. They're very much very, very much Tough. Here's Robert saying, he's still hyped for death metal. Used all the multiverse stuff's been fun. Multiverse stories. Yeah, it's yeah. And here's the original was a bizarre one and done. It is tough. I don't know. But it's happening at a very weird time for DC. I don't think that happens as well. By the way, here's a lot of people who are saying more indie stuff. Yes, indie stuff, more indie stuff. Good. Like I said, I'll keep doing the indie stuff. I don't mind at all. Indie readers are more likely to be more engaged. I think that's true. But it is, I will say, some of the craziest stuff I've gotten. And this has been eye-opening for me. I mean, every time I hop to a new platform, when I went onto Twitter and really started engaging on that a little bit more free, when I wasn't so tied to a business and everything else, I saw, there's some crazy out here. And the world's got a lot crazier on social media. By the way, I did that video on fear, yesterday or the day before. And it is funny how people really hate to ever have to face some uncomfortable truth about maybe their side. I had these clips of some people on Fox, people on the right, people on the left, both saying kind of very alarmist, kind of crazy things. And man, people are pissed. Like they're like, and I get mails like, I'm okay that you showed Bernie Sanders being a lunatic, but why'd you show Sean Hannity being a lunatic? He's fine. I mean, people, it's very, very crazy. Anyway, it is what it is. But I definitely have gotten some of the funniest and most crazy comments from some of the indie fans. But I think they are definitely likely to be more engaged. I think that's quite true. I just got the 50th Overstreet. What's your opinion? It's still useful. It's useful to kind of see the trends go up and down. I don't think it's useful as a moment in time, but I'm curious what Yul and some other people think. I don't think the price guides are as useful. I will tell you though, and again, I think this is a video that's coming out in a few days, and I've talked about it before. I think that if there's one thing that the industry needs really, really badly right now, it's Wizard. The Wizard magazine drove so much marketing. And my premise that I talked through, and I'm curious again what people think in the chat. Now, in addition to just being a cool magazine, people have a lot of good thoughts about it. I believe that Image, when they split off in '92 and they started to do their thing, I don't think that Image would have been anywhere close to as popular or successful if Wizard hadn't been there to help market and help drive it. Because if you think about it, a lot of comics were still being sold through the newsstand. Yes, there was a comic shop. Yes, these were big name people, and eventually readers would have found them. But Wizard helped bridge the gap to basically remind the comic audience that wasn't as plugged in of saying, hey, that guy who you love doing Spider-Man, he's over here doing Spawn. It made the connection for people. Todd and Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee and all these guys, I mean, they were very big names. But the way people were reading comics at the time, unless you were going into a comic store regularly, you didn't necessarily know where people were jumping around to. Wizard provided that marketing. And I think the value of what Wizard did to comics and the indies and some of the growth of new businesses was critical. And I think we're really missing that now, because I don't think that big comic publishers have ever really figured out marketing on their own end. And I think they don't necessarily realize how much Wizard actually did the marketing for them. And marketing, Wizard had interviews, and it had free copies of comics and ashcan issues and all this other kind of stuff going on inside of it, a little bit of a price guide. But Wizard was marketing, I think, more than almost any other vehicle we've seen in comics. And today we have online websites and other stuff, but they don't do anywhere close to the same kind of job of packaging up what's going on in comics and marketing it to them. I think that's a huge missing element. Anyway, so sorry, you talked about Overstreet and I went on to Wizard, so it is what it is. But anyway, man, I'm going to take a little sip of this whiskey here as we just let this stuff settle in. It's all good. Very nice. Anyway, I do hope that you guys are having a great wrap up to the week. Okay, I launched channel and focus only on the non-big two. Well, tell us what it is. Is it you murdered that guy? We can go right. So I'm interested to check that out. So let us know, and I will be happy to promote you and follow you. And I'd love to see more non-big two stuff. I absolutely agree. Speaking of events, my first read through of Batman No Man's Land. No Man's Land is one of those events, or I don't know if event's the right word, but themes. And it is, they did a really good job of it, especially in the time that it came out and everything else. I think No Man's Land deserves way more credit than it gets. So I think if you haven't checked out No Man's Land, that is a gem in the sense of, one of those things that sounds so old and lame. It's a gem. Yeah. Anyway, do I think Peter Tomasi will stay on Detective Comics 24? I do not think so. I think Tomasi's going somewhere else within DC. But that's just I won't say any more on that. But I that's my suspicion. Yeah. Yul Carter has also done some good. Yeah, he's done some good indie reviews. Absolutely. Good stuff. We're going through. If you're going to talk about indies, do videos about Godland and Bomb Queen. Yes, absolutely. Again, there's a ton of great comics out there. Does DC even have a regular universe anymore? Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely a lot looser. And we heard, I think Scott Snyder said, or maybe it wasn't Snyder, somebody said, I think relatively soon after Didio left, maybe it was Jim Lee actually, that they were going to loosen up continuity and they were going to, play more in this space. And I think that's clear. They're just going to, try and go for big thematic stories and not worry so much about that. Yeah, Wizard was awesome. I absolutely agree. Here's Horizon Brave is going to come on the channel, I hear, and stream with me at some point, which would be great. Strongly disagree. Oh, okay. Some people are disagreeing. That's good. Everybody loves to disagree. Why not? What's this? So sad since Tuesday. This has been the thing. Aw, I'm glad you're here. This has been one hell of a week. I've been looking forward to this too. I'm still not completely all good with streaming. I'm not as comfortable with people as others are doing it. And but I'm glad you're here. It's not that sad. We're gonna have a good time. It is good. And yes, he's confirmed it is his username. So go look for You Murdered That Guy, and he's gonna do some indie reviews. So please do. Shanghala also needs love. I tell you what, guys, do me a favor and post if you can, just reach out to me either through email, which I'm gonna spend a lot of time going through and getting all 100% caught up over the weekend. Or post a comment. And if you have a channel out there, I would be happy to promote it. Maybe we'll just do a video just promoting your channels. I think the more the merrier, for sure, especially with some new voices out there. Nothing against the old voices, just, some of those guys are way too cocky about their own standing, I say. And I'm talking like not the commentary people, but the Comics Explained and some of those guys. Nothing against those people, but it's all very glossy at this point. It's very packaged and produced. And I think there's a lot of voices out there that need to be heard. And so, yes, the more the merrier. So this one did, and this one did. So, and lots more. I'm sure there's more. And Yule, if you're not following Yule, I mean, you get crazy. You got to do any plans on covering comics from other countries? Yes, I'm missing some screenshots, but I've got a series on European stuff, and then I will dive into Japan. Manga gets covered really, really well in general. I will do some more of it, but European comics do not. So I will definitely spend some time talking about some of those. So, some poor people have poor guy. He just came to see that new comics page. I've got to put that up again. No, I won't. But anyway, where are we going here? Okay, somebody's made it to the pub. They're getting some booze. That's good. Let's see. Where are we doing here? Okay. Yeah, this is my problem. The big comic channels tend to be shills, and of course they are, because they enjoy kind of this lightweight promotion from the big two. So they don't want to let that go. I get why. I mean, when you got 100,000 plus. Here's somebody. Nobody wants to watch my channel. Oh, I don't know. Come on. We're having more of you guys need to be drinking. Clearly. That's what we need. We need more top 10 lists on the indie sites. Also more name calling. Yeah, sure. Why not? Who has Perch's email? Here, I'm just going to post it right into the. Here. Oh wait, it won't let me do it. I don't want to do it. There we go. I posted it into the chat. There you go. That's it. You can mail me right there. Let's see. I'm going to go back over here and get this going. Like I did last week, a bunch of people liked it, so that's good. Hey, comics that came out this week in years past. You just get that down. Curious who in the chat got some of these. There was some good stuff. We were into Secret Wars 2. We were into Assistant Editors Month. If you remember that, it was a thing. Back with Marvel, we had the Vision and Scarlet Witch limited series that was not written by Tom King. And so, some pretty good stuff going on. I'll talk about my book here at the end. So thanks for asking, by the way. So anyway, some really nice books. Again, Spinner Rack over on Twitter posts these things like every day. You see covers, and it's just really cool to see that kind of stuff go down. It has some Micronauts action there, ROM and everything else. I read most of these, although I forgot. I remember this Indiana Jones issue. I wanted to love the Indiana Jones comic and never really did. It was I really liked the movies, but the comic always seemed to do it. Just never really fell outside of the adaptation of the movies. I'm curious if anybody else read Indiana Jones. I just that comic just never really did it for me. But I love that property. But anyway, over here, some on the DC world of things. This is back. I love this era, by the way, of Action Comics where it was Superman would just clown people all the time. He'd like go and eat all the burgers, or he'd play like crazy, insane tricks on Lois. This was always a hilarious time. What makes a comic a classic? Well, I mean, at this point, it's like just that it came out a few years ago. But hopefully, what made a comic classic is that it's got a story that's memorable, or some art that gets reprinted and everything else. I think there's a lot of different definitions of what classic can be. But anyway, hey, I'll hit this real quick because will you be buying Chuck Winding's newest book? Probably not. I don't know. To each their own, I guess is the best way to put it. What's going on in my book, Perch? Hey, I think, knock on wood, in 1 to 2 weeks, I'm going to come on. I'm going to show some art. I'm going to do an announcement about one of the 2 books that I'm working on. One's my book completely, and one I'm doing with somebody else. And it's just I'm going kind of like a backup story. So I'm anxious to share some of the art and talk about that. And maybe 2 weeks is a little too ambitious. I probably just freaked out the guy I'm working with. But I'm anxious to show you what I've got and hope you're all happy with it. Still aiming to be done with the big book, about 120 pages by the end of the year, and on more or less track with that. I've got to figure out what I'm doing with coloring. So that's how that's going. Hey, somebody else asked the same question, so I just answered both things. But anyway, Camelot 3000. There's some cool books here. If you were a big DC fan, and this was some good stuff. Yes, I am. I'm doing both. I'm writing and drawing. So fun stuff. I'm nowhere anywhere close to a pro at all. Like not even a little bit. Let's see. For the next 2 months, I have transformed to a Ten of Swords channel. I should back off the reviews then. I'll just point to your reviews. You can do them, which would be great. That'll be great for me. Anyway, does anybody remember this Kung Fu Fighter book? I admit this one I had forgotten. I knew it existed, but it took seeing that cover again for me to remember that this thing would go on. Anyway, all good stuff. Let's see, what do we got here? And now we get into kind of this was some epic kind of Marvel time. You had a week where you had 2 Art Adams issues in 1 week. You had that X-Men annual and you had a long shot issue, both come out in the same week. It's crazy town. Imagine 2 full size. I mean, one giant sized and then one regular comic sized Art Adams comics in the same week. You had Michael Mignola there on Alpha Flight taking over John Byrne, which was really cool. But you did not. That was a style clash. You did not expect it to go from one to the other. And this is back when annuals mattered. Like some of the annuals back in these days out of Marvel were pretty amazing. I also remember, like, for whatever reason, the Amazing Spider-Man, that book, the slide, like the newsstand ordered way too much of it. I remember going and it was dozens and dozens of comics everywhere on that thing. It was crazy, crazy stuff. What is my book about? One is, I'd say for a younger audience, but not super young. This is the one I'm just doing the backup story on. It's still kind of adventure, One Piece style of that kind of age group. And then the other one is definitely more for an older audience. It's there are superpowers in the world, but the book is focusing on people that are not necessarily powered with powers. Yeah, that said weird. And there's a ton of violence. It's going to be very, very violent. So very much not what people expect. But I promise the story hopefully is good, and I hope you enjoy it. It'll be good. Still got to figure out what I want to do with it. Anyway, Some really good stuff. Yeah, that Michael Golden X-Men annual was also pretty awesome. So I mean, anyway, a lot of good. So this was a good era of comics. We had, again, over on DC. I remember this Cosmic Boy. This was when DC was starting to do the whole Legends stuff. You had that was a great Jericho book, and good Hawkman. Again, a lot of pretty neat stuff. Wonder Woman was always. I mean, this is an exaggeration, and people have called me out on this before, but it always felt to me like Wonder Woman would flirt every few years with the idea that somebody else was Wonder Woman, and they kind of always do it the same way. It's like, sorry, Wonder Woman, there's a new Wonder Woman now, and you get like this woman kind of looking down on her like, I've got your lasso, and the Wonder Woman's like, damn it, she got my lasso. It just went. I don't know. It just. It just. I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just me, but it always felt like, and I think the same thing is true. Like whenever people get stumped as to what to do with Superman, they're like, I don't know, let's reveal his identity. Now let's cover it back up again. Now let's reveal it again. It's just, it seems like they go the well way too many times. People have told me that's crap, and Wonder Woman did not get supplanted by other Wonder Women a lot. But for whatever reason, I'm curious if people are thinking that I'm crazy or not. Is it true that Chris Claremont is peanut to write the what? Paid. I'm thinking you mean paid here. I'm thinking, wait, paid not. Oh, paid not. I think that's what you're saying here, because that is true. He has a contract where he gets I don't know, what's better ways, but a retainer. I don't know. He's getting paid, and Marvel can use him or not use him, and they're not using him. And it's a little. I'm sure there's some answer to why this contract continues, but it's just a. I don't know. It's a contract you got. If I'm Marvel, I'm putting him on anything else. I mean, anything. Like at this point, if you feel like the X-Men universe is wrapped up with Hickman, I mean, like, good Lord, put Claremont in the Avengers or Team USA. Whatever you want to do, just something. I don't just pay him to do nothing. But I don't know. I think the contract's weird that he gets some money for kind of just keeping his exclusive, and then if he does comic work, his page rate is really, really high. So it's kind of, he's stuck in this weird middle ground where they want to keep paying him to stay there and not go somewhere else, but they don't want to pay him more to actually do work. I think that's kind of how it goes down, but it's pretty nuts. Anyway, some great covers. I love seeing this. Anyway, it is an amazing deal. One thing that's true about comics, and this is probably not something I can talk about too freely, is there are some absolutely nuts contracts out there. It felt like there's people, kind of like that Terrific Productions guy. There's feel like there are people who write contracts and make business deals that definitely should not do that, because there's some crazy kind of terms and deals, and I mean, the kind of the things I've heard over the years, that dates back a long time. Like, comics, for whatever reason, always seem to like to do the nuttiest kind of weird terms. And even that, for those of you who've seen that video, it's an older one that I did a long time ago. So I don't know if people stick with me forever or not, but there was, the rights. So if you've ever gone to Universal Studios in Florida, they've got a bunch of Marvel rides there, even though Disney owns them. And oftentimes you think, why is there Marvel there and not at Disney? And then conversely, if you go to California, Universal Studios has no Marvel stuff in California, but there is Marvel stuff in Disneyland, and yet not in Disney World. Or there's this. It's very strange. Well, the answer is that the contract that they initially signed for the rights used the Mississippi River as the bounding line for where Universal could basically use those characters. And it's insane to me to think that people are writing contracts that use a river as part of the just the territory. I don't know. Maybe that's not so weird, but just in 2020, that seems super, super weird. And now, of course, that's one reason why I think Marvel is putting some attention, or Disney, on new characters, because things like Guardians of the Galaxy are not bound by those restrictions. So Guardians of the Galaxy can go into Epcot over in Florida and in California. But it's just, just yikes. I mean, just such a strange kind of world. Keep telling your boss. I'm sure that somewhere out there we can all get those Chris Claremont contracts, and then we'll be paid and we'll do nothing. It's a perfect place to do. Hey, do I feel like there is no longer a place at the big two for showcasing their C-list characters? Yeah, I think it's tougher. I think like I did the video with, I think he posted this morning with Wes over at Thinking Critical. I mean, the thing that we're seeing with sales is that the middle is vanishing like really fast. It's that is eroding, whereas the top selling comics are considered just the safe comics. And we've heard it different ways about like focus on meat and potato characters, focus on things everybody knows. Hey, some of these big brands are under leveraged, so let's just make more Batman books. And so that's there's kind of that scramble, and I don't think there's the patience for the C list. And I think at some point somebody's going to have a genius idea, like Marvel Knights was. Like that's one thing Quesada brought to Marvel, is that here's how we can create a little imprint or a little area where we can give these guys some breathing room, do something different. I keep thinking that this is where you're going to see some of the C list and some of the B-roll characters show up in digital, and they're going to pay less, and it's going to just be a different kind of business model. They're going to start to put some properties out there. It feels like that to me. I don't know. It's going to be very tough. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Mississippi River is also a boundary for White Castle. I believe there's something with Publix, the grocery store as well. There's just some weird contracts out there. People are weird, and I love this. Yeah, Hulk can't cross the river. Well done. Anyway, yeah, Six Flags in California has DC. The rights of the comic characters are kind of all over the freaking place. It is pretty nuts, and yeah, it does feel like it's the 1700s. I made this point. Yeah, it's like the disappearing middle class, but with comics. Yeah, it's yikes. I think the big two are going to be the medium two within 10 years, and maybe become the little two. Who will rise and take the thrones? Scholastic is one of them. I mean, I've said that before, and it's funny. 2 years ago, people were like, screw you. And it would be, nobody took that seriously. In 2020, I think Scholastic is fishing around to buy kind of a big manga distributor in the US, or get into that chain and kind of start to move up with their audience. I think in 5-10 years, it's going to be tough. The big two, Marvel and DC, I mean, they're IP farms, and they do a really effective job of that in a lot of cases to their parents. So I don't think they're ever going to become the little two, but definitely they're not going to have the same kind of clout that they used to be able to throw around. I think that's going to go to some other people, and I think some of the indies are good. The trick is the indies that come up, as soon as they get to a certain size, they immediately start wanting to behave like Marvel. They start hiring Marvel executives, and or DC, and they start trying to be like that. And then they kind of crest and go right off the cliff again. At this point, they need to really start to focus on not, trying to be Marvel and DC and be something new, be more like, if you're going to copy somebody, copy Scholastic at this point. I mean, try doing that. That's probably what you should do. Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember Elitch Gardens, man. I need to I'm going back to Denver here in, I don't know, the next month or two. So if anybody is down in Denver and wants to meet up for a beer, then I'm buying a beer. So that's what we're doing. Why can't the least popular characters be developed in supporting stories? Yeah, and they used to do that regularly, and I don't know. It would be smart. I mean, I think even every now and then the comic companies kind of stumble into the success. I think whether it's even recently with what they did with Punchline, it's like, hey, look, we can create a new character and kind of tease them in a story and do some backup stuff, and they land and they hit, and then then they've got more things to sell. I mean, hey, do more of that. I don't know. Yeah, Viz. Yeah, probably. Scholastic Max. Sorry. Oh, that's funny to think about. I love it. I'll have to sit down tonight and not do the 2 pages that I'm supposed to be doing tonight for my comic, and instead draw parodies of what Scholastic Max would look like. That's absolutely going to happen. Anyway, so hey, moving on. So here's a couple more here. Oops, there we go. I mean, yeah, there's some great comics here. Again, I'm curious, who bought this kind of stuff, but I remember those the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, some of those Iron Man issues. There's Team America in there. I like how Team America, they throw. I think sales were kind of dropping at this point, so like put a bikini on the cover there. It's like same approach they use for Shanna the Savage. It's a solid plan doing that. But this was Assistant Editors Month, I think, all over the place that we were getting. I believe a bunch of these comics. New Mutants was, I think The Thing was. Anyway, that was also a thing. Today, I think every month is Assistant Editors Month in a lot of ways, for sure. Anyway, hey, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm streaming every Friday about 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern time. I'm doing this, so please always come join me. Holy crap, I got like 90 people plus. Oh, wow. Okay, glad you guys are here. I was not paying attention to what was going on. I'm the worst streamer in every single way. Anyway, this thing comic. This was a hilarious comic. Absolutely. If you remember this, there was the Assistant Editors Month used to be kind of fun. And it used to, I think, give a little bit more insight into the business. Weirdly, this was back when Marvel would kind of talk more about what was going on in the comics. You had like the bullpen pages and it was more insider. And yet at the same time was getting new readers in. I heard somebody this week talking about, well, one of the things to do about getting new readers in is you got to, not talk about the comic business and you got to avoid all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, I'm not so sure. I mean, lots of people were really good at it back in the day. I'm just saying. Yeah, this was a great time though for comics. And John Byrne was just he could do no wrong visually. He was doing plenty of wrong behind the scenes. but the other good. Oh, this is cool. Michael Bancroft. Hey, if people talk about me in stream, send me a note. Again, I hear that the Van Skyvers mentioned me a few times. I heard the not Comics Explained. The other big guy mentioned that. I hear that I'm like a boring dad. So that's cool. Yeah, there you go. A lot of smaller pubs making deals with Simon & Schuster. Yeah, this is kind of where the battle I think is gonna play out. Simon & Schuster. I think Penguin will get some action through Warner Media, Scholastic. That's really where things are gonna battle. And it's healthy actually to see this transition happen. But it is going to be a very, very interesting time. 1:00 in the morning. I hope you're drinking. You better be drinking. I really, really want you drinking. But I mean, 1 in the morning. I mean, well, the UK. I used to spend a lot of time in Barcelona, and it always amazed me. Like dinner would not start till like 10 o'clock at night, and it's like, I want to be drunk by then. I don't know. Anyway, hey, thanks for listening for a long time. Glad you're liking the content. I try. Somebody sent me some instructions on how to make the audio in my videos not suck so much. And I guess the big problem, I was trying to tune my voice. But I guess the problem people were really having is that the little theme music like blasts super loud, and then it goes, then my voice is lower, and that's super annoying to people. So, hey, you learn something all the time. Yeah, the internet came along, made a permanent record. Old Byrne, I think Byrne was clearly ahead of his time. I mean, 10 years later, he would have been like the toast of Twitter. But now, it happened too early. That's it's a shame. Hey, Aztec by Grant Morrison. Yeah, Chase. DC was doing a lot in the 90s. I mentioned this often, and I got some pushback on it, but I think Marvel in the 90s was just going all in on trying to kind of replicate what Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld were doing in a lot of cases. Everybody had pouches. Everything was extreme. And they were really they kind of burned out the superhero genre. And DC was much more experimental. You had Vertigo, you had Aztec, you had a lot of very different things coming out of DC in quite a lot of ways. I'm not a boring dad. I don't know. I try. EVS should have Perch on a stream. I'm not exciting. I'm a boring dad. I don't know. He's still in his 40s and looks 60. I don't know who this is. Maybe me. I don't think I look 60. Yeah, I'm all right. Anyway, what are we doing here? I don't know. Somebody not drinking but cooking. Okay, cooking burgers. Good. Smoking. Okay, no problem there. Actually, Clown Hunter is pretty lame. All right. Yep. Hey, so this is a good question. Favorite 80s comics runs. What are your favorite 80s comics runs in comics? I think. To me, this was still, I think that was when a lot of good things were going on. I've mentioned before, this was my favorite decade in comics for the big two anyway. I think the indies, there's a lot more that came out in the 90s. And actually, I think well, I guess we're in the new decade now, but the teens, the 20 teens, we did see a lot of really solid work come out of the indies. I mean, I think Invincible was a really good book. I don't know if that Image is not really the indies, not like the indies, but I think that that in a lot of cases, the teens gave us some really good indie books that kind of we missed out on. And it goes back to that comment about Wizard earlier. We're really missing out on a good marketing vehicle to promote a lot of this indie work. A lot of good stuff are being put out, but you know, people are missing it. It's a shame, I think. It's a great one. So what other things? Okay, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Yeah, look at this. Innocenti, Daredevil, The Question, American Flag, Fate. Yeah, 80s. Whoop, and then the thing jumped, so we got this. X-Men, Daredevil, Alpha Flight, New Mutants. Oh, that's a good comment. 80s had better single-story graphic novel books that stood out. You know what's interesting is a lot of those graphic novel books are not reprinted. Like, it's hard to find them, and there's so much there. Look at all this awesome stuff here. Love and Rockets, awesome. Somebody's listening while turning compost in Perth. Good for you. Awesome. How's Australia doing? By the way, I know that kind of things surged back, and I've got some friends down there as well. They were in Melbourne. They were having a tough time. So glad you're doing well in Perth. Perth's beautiful, actually. So Grew, yeah, absolutely Grew. Great. That was a fun comic. So many good stuff. PC, yeah, Comico. Now the stuff's just pouring out. There was a lot of great comics coming out in that place. Himbeck is always appreciated if you like dad humor. Perch, yeah, okay, yep, apparently. Power Pack, New Teen Titans, Swamp Thing. There was the crazy part, I think, about the 80s in general is that, hey, here's somebody from Colorado Springs who I'm definitely going to have a beer with when I go down to Denver. Well, maybe, assuming we can do it. We'll both sit behind our masks is what we'll do. By the way, I don't know if you guys do this, and maybe this is shorthand. This was how it was in Japan a lot. You'd say, go get a drink or go get a beer, and you rarely drank beer. Sometimes you drank beer, but in many cases, like in Japan, beer is kind of like water. It's so diluted down that it's like, that's like your break drink between sake or shochu or scotch or something else. I mean, and so I always say, go get a beer. And people are always like, I don't drink much beer. I'm like, even better, we're drinking whiskey. I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but anyway, there you go. This is how I keep my audience. But it's funny that okay, good for you. I'm glad. Oh, it's too bad about the comics, but I'm glad you guys are doing well there in Perth. There was so many good comics in the 80s. And what really struck me about it is I think you could go into a shop and you could pick up a book and it was, there was literally something for everyone. You had Westerns, you had Kung Fu, you had sci-fi, you had superhero cape books, you had gritty pulp. You had, I mean, there's even some romance comics in there. You had everything. And it didn't feel like there was too much of things weren't crammed too much in one area. I think you had it's just easier to go and find things. Today, we've got that same kind of diversification of content, but like it's much harder to get to those. You really have to kind of, be at a comic shop and dig it out to get to a lot of that other stuff. And I think there's been a much different thing here. Oh man, this is gonna be a hard question to have. You do have good beer in Perth, yeah. What's Marvel's beer choice? DC Image, Marvel. So well, we'll start a different way. DC strikes me as like Guinness. It's kind of thick and at times hard to get through, and sometimes you're really in the mood for it, and other times it's just too much, and you're not sure what you're doing after a while. Marvel's beer choice. I don't know. Marvel seems like a Corona company right now. That's terrible. But that's what kind of Marvel seems like. Image is definitely craft beer, and really pretentious craft beer, where some of it's good, but even when it's good, you feel kind of annoyed that you had to pay $12 for a pint, and you're not sure what's going on, and at various times they'll like insert fruit into the beer, and you don't know why they're doing that. That's probably my image. And then you have like Xenoscope is probably like your Coors Light, and Boom is slowly becoming like Sapporo. And I don't know. I this more people will have better answers than me. But there you go. Who is the whiskey of comics? Oh, good Lord. You're just reminding me to drink some whiskey is what you're doing there. I just try and go for a long run of just dead air, see what happens. I think, I mean, I don't know. Right now, the companies that are nailing it with kind of indie comics coming out. And when I say nailing it, I don't necessarily mean the comic itself. I think there's a lot of good comics everywhere, but where they're actually getting that comic and they're getting it marketed, they're getting people kind of out there, and people are able to kind of get something new out of it. It's I think Boom has either on purpose or accidentally figured out how to put stuff out. I think they're marketing their books, the timing of how they're releasing it works. I think for everybody, by the way, who's works in a comic shop, goes to a comic shop. I'm curious to hear what you think about this, but Boom seems to be releasing in a way that they're setting a rhythm for people coming and getting the comics. In some cases, they're shipping a little bit faster than a month for the new stuff to get some parts kind of hooked in, and it's like Boom probably has the nod right now of a company that's getting it right on the indie side. There's great comics everywhere, but they're doing a good job with what they're doing. As somebody's saying, Boom's been marketing well for years. They have, but in the last it's weird this year. Despite everything with the pandemic, they kind of came back from the pause and they hit their stride really, really well. They've done a good job. Berserker is potentially the one that is either they're making a very good decision by delaying it to get Ron Garney's art in, or they're going to kill their buzz on this book. But hopefully they go on. There's some really funny analogies. Marvel is Xena. Yeah, sure. I think Marvel, I mean, if anybody's White Claw, it's probably Marvel. That's it. But I think this is an open beer can at a metal festival. Could be beer, could be piss. Sorry, you made me almost spit out some of the whiskey, which would have been terrible. Yeah, Boom's doing trailers for their comics. Marvel is too. But again, it's weird because it feels like there needs to be somebody like a consultant at all these companies who's able to point to things that they do well and go, hey, you did this well. Keep doing this. Like keep doing what you're doing here. And then because every now and then, like the comic companies where marketing is concerned, they do something well, and then they don't do it again. Like it's successful. People are cheering it on social media. It's getting shared around, and then they're like, and we're done. It's like, why don't you don't have to be original every time. If something works, clone it. Just keep going. That is what you should be doing, and it's very, very strange. Some and in many cases, I feel like they're paying too much. Like some of these trailers that come out, it feels like they invest a lot of money into CGI and kind of other pieces to the trailer, and you're like, don't they could set up a cam over Ryan Stegman. And they could just and film it like artsy and black and white. And he's like, hey, I'm just drawing a page, and then do a stop motion where you just film him putting together a page. And it's like, look, some people are getting ripped up right now. And this next page is going to be a big shocking reveal. Tune in and see that comic, and people will be happy. You don't have to do a lot of I don't know. It's very, very weird. DCL is toilet water prison. This is what I wish Twitter was more of. Like this would be a great discussion. Like what type of alcohol is your stuff? I'm not sure if I have another one. Yeah, I do. Hey, look at this. We got more. There's so many comics. You start going into the history of comics, and this is why if the publishers, big two, or even some of the indies, like you was mentioning, some of the companies in the 80s who were putting out indies. Like more of these companies need to go into their library and get some of this stuff out and start positioning it well, because even if they bomb at printing out new comics, there's enough old material that if it's curated and kind of repackaged and put back out there, you could easily keep people going forever. And maybe that's one easy way you solve the getting new readers into comics. Like maybe you get the new readers into old comics. You don't have to get the new readers into the newest comics. You can like if you put Secret Wars down in front of a new reader, and I remember telling this because Marvel let the Secret Wars trade, I believe, go out of, they didn't have one out of print, in print, offered when Infinity War and Endgame were out. And I remember saying man, you really should have Secret Wars out on the shelves in trade, ready for new readers, because this is, I mean, the Secret Wars was ideal for getting people into Marvel. It still had a lot. I mean, it had the whole sweep of characters. It had it was relatively easy to follow what was going on. It wasn't the most complex story. You had Mike Zeck just turn in just killer art in this thing. I think fan comes out of Infinity War in game, and you hand them the Secret Wars trade paperback and say, hey, this is going to be a primer to all the other characters that we didn't even fit into Infinity War, and there's lots of them. This will give you a whole primer on the Marvel Universe. And then maybe as you're printing this trade in the back, you just say, hey, you were introduced to all these characters. Here's Captain Marvel, the Monica Captain Marvel. Here's the X-Men. Here's Doctor Doom. Here's where you go find their comics, and whatever you like, go there. I mean, yeah, it's free money. Feels like this comment right here, Classic X-Men. There's a lot of people who came in this way. Classic X-Men brought a lot of readers into the X-Men, and they felt like they got their handle on things, and they started going backward and buying back issues or getting trades, and it worked. It was easy. House of M, it worked for him. Yeah, I think there's some events that are better than others for being hey, you can come in here and you can get kind of a new story and get introduced to a bunch of things, and then you can kind of find your way into other comics. It was lots of easy ways to do it, but I don't know. I run free marketing for Marvel and DC every day. They don't care. Anyway, there you have it. I don't know. There's a lot of good comics here. I mean, what's funny is this: the Man of Steel, when Byrne came on, you had Alan Davis over there on Detective Comics. I mean, that was a great Detective Comics run. I love seeing Alan Davis on anything, and I wish there was more Alan Davis going on right now. But a lot of good stuff. You could jump in, jump out. I was never quite sure what DC exactly was trying to accomplish with the Legends event. I've heard at various times it was supposed to be kind of a way to reintroduce some of the classic characters and all the rest, but it felt like that idea got like half completed, and they started shooting stuff out into the market, and that was about it. So I don't know what went on. Yeah, I mean, I think Marvel should have. I think this is true. I think they should have done an MCU line, but when they did it, because they did these movie tie-in books, and they always seemed like they were super dumbed down. Like Marvel was doing them in a hostage situation. Like they're like Disney came in, and Mickey's like, "Oh, you're going to make some of these comics," and then somebody's like getting a gun pointed at them to draw like these prelude comics. They had no life to them, and they could have. I mean, I think you could have just said, hey, we're just like the Ultimate line. You could put some real creators on it. I mean, real creators like that, but I mean, put some real money behind it and actually made it a thing. And it would be, I mean, it was right there. There's lots going on there. But anyway, it's a funny time. I like this comment here. This is, I think, how a lot of people felt once you got hooked onto comics, or a certain line, getting those back issues. It was like, it's like how I hear people describe, finding all the Pokemon in Pokemon Go, which is just such a what a letdown. That is, like, people would search and search and search. And I remember a guy coming into my store from 2 states over. Is like, I called ahead, and you have these 4 issues, and I need them, and I've only got 1 left after I buy these 4 issues. And I'm like, hey, I could have mailed them to you. He's like, no, driving to these shops is part of the quest. I'm like, okay, you're on a quest to get all these issues. Cool. Anyway, anybody, by the way, did anybody see this South Park pandemic episode? Like a lot of people around me were really offended that even occurred. And I mean, like, it was South Park. At this point, who's surprised by South Park? I don't know. I don't really get. I don't get why people are outraged by really weird things these days. I would have to travel 70 miles to a comic book shop, and you felt. I felt good. Like, there were times in my life when I wasn't, but before, when I was younger, I'd like try and con my parents into driving me down to. I remember there was this shop going to in Colorado Springs. If that guy's still in the chat, back in the kind of the mid 80s. And it was always like, everything was so cool. It was like a pilgrimage. You go down to the shop and it smelled cool and all the rest. It was like, yeah, it was great. Good for you. You love that. It was great. You're buzzed. That's perfect. That's exactly where you want to be at this time on a Friday. or I guess for folks down in Australia on a Saturday. So there you go. Anyway, the other one that I need, I got some people asking about this, and I always thought this was a given. Everybody knows this exists, but we'll see. Please be brave in the chat if this was you, or if you don't know what I'm talking about. But there used to be this thing called a flea market, and depending on where you live in the country or in other countries, maybe you've never encountered this before, but this was usually outdoors, sometimes indoors. People would show up. Some cases they had little folding tables and they'd sell stuff and just sell used crap and junk. And I remember vividly as a kid, and even older, going in and getting some comics and bringing back to the shop, that you'd go to those places and you'd be digging through these long boxes for, you'd buy comics for a nickel, and you'd go in there and like, here's a torn up, beat up comic, and here's something that has no cover anymore, and here's something that's crap, and here's like, I think I got a Fantastic Four like number 3 from a flea market in like really good condition. And it's like it was a nickel like everything else, and it's like, and those are just that was fun, and it was great. And then I don't think the whole concept of the flea market would go anywhere. I don't think that exists anymore. I can't imagine that in the time of Corona, but the flea market stuff was crazy for comics. If you ever went and so this is it. A flea market is a mass garage sale. That's a great way of describing it. But it was amazing how they would have comics, they'd have action figures, they'd have everything, and it was like it was a mission for a lot of people. Going to the flea market every Sunday. That you get the toys. You find 800 different versions of Mattel cars and other things down there. Is crazy. Yeah, eBay kind of is the modern flea market. I think that's absolutely well said. It is, but it's not the same. There's something about going and haggling and with some people had no idea what was going on. But I mean, this is how a lot of collections were filled out. And it was, this combination, especially if you wanted to start to get a run of going and getting some of the issues in the comic shop and then going to the flea market to get others, and kind of this, I'm only missing one. And, I'd have my runs printed down on like a little yellow file card. And it's like I'm crossing them out as I go. And I'm like, I'm so close to having the entire run of X-Men. And I think I filled out my run of Uncanny at a flea market. I think that was kind of the last issue I secured was at a flea market. It's just crazy. Fantastic Four, Avengers, some of the others. I need to do this. I'm going to drag a bunch of long boxes out here into like this the room I'm in here and film, kind of going through some of this stuff. I don't know if anybody it'll be fun for me. Boring for everybody else, but it's good stuff. Anyway, those are good times. I don't know. I was surprised to hear that, we talk about the newsstand a lot, and we want to bring back the newsstand, and we do, it sounds good. We do definitely want to bring back comics in other places, but it's important to realize that comic books were everywhere. I mean, it wasn't just like the newsstand, like a grocery store and a gas station. It was barbershops. It was all over the place. Flea markets. Comic books were everywhere in one form or another. And it's not just that the newsstand has disappeared. It's like all of it's disappeared. And now the flea markets themselves are gone. So it's like, that's the thing that's missing. How many long boxes do I have? Personal long boxes. So I don't know if it's embarrassing or not. So I was guessing about 50. I was putting it about 50. And then my wife was listening. I think somebody asked me this before, and I said about 50. And my wife thought that was bullshit because she has to put up with a lot of the long boxes. So she reports that the number is actually 82. So 82 is the answer, which is a terrible answer. But anyway, and also it's a dedication of my wife to actually go to the little storage area and count all this stuff up as a way to dunk on me. So that's cool. Is there someone in the comic industry who just pisses me off? Like you see a name and their blood starts to boil a bit. Yes, there are a couple. I deliberately don't. So it's interesting. You could do it by process of elimination. The people I don't talk about. There are a couple. And generally it's people who, for example, we do an agreement, and in many cases, there's one guy in particular who did it to me twice, where I paid for them to come to the store for a signing. and then they didn't show up, and then they acted super douchey about it later. There was no apology. So those are the kind of people that really, really piss me off. I don't know. A lot of people are accomplishing it right now. I am not bothered like a lot of people are by the creators posting irresponsible, crazy crap on social media. I think it's bad for their career, but I don't get really heated about it. Maybe it's because I think a lot of it is political, what gets people really angry. And I tend to dislike everyone. I'm not a fan of either candidate right now, and that's been true for quite a long time. So not to get political on it, but so I think that's why, because I don't love or hate somebody, it's if somebody's dunking on them on Twitter, I just find it kind of goofy, unprofessional. I always think to myself, here's somebody that's going to have to delete their Twitter account in a year or two because they're going to change jobs and it's going to matter, or the social climate will change. It's like, hey, wishing for somebody to be dead on your Twitter account's not haha funny anymore. It's actually considered in bad taste. And then it's like all the people digging up tweets from like 5-6 years ago, like the people who dug up James Gunn's tweets, and it's like, hey, these aren't funny. But 5-6 years ago, he was being sarcastic and funny, and people apparently thought them funny. But hey, as it turns out, time ages, and it's like jokes about kids are not funny anymore. Probably wasn't at the time, but things change, and I think that's going to happen with a lot of creators. So long way of saying, I'm not as keyed up in that as a lot of people. That said, the last 24 hours, and unfortunately, I think as we get between now and the election, just the amount of insane crap that's being sprayed out on social media, it's gone up a notch. And it's not the guy that they're insulting. It's not that they hate Trump and I'm like, you can't say that about our president. It's not that. It's like, how are you feeling comfortable posting some of this stuff? Like, there's a comic creator who was talking about how Donald Trump, he hopes that Donald Trump doesn't die before he's had a chance to have sex with his daughter, and going into a lot of detail. And I'm like, why are you writing that? Like, whether you like the guy or don't like the guy, that's not like, I mean, why are you doing that? I don't think it helps anyone. So that kind of stuff is irritating. I mean, I'm just not looking as much, but I hope, I want some people like in the industry, kind of the elder stateswomen of the industry, to come in and be like, hey, just calm the fuck down, people. Seriously, you gotta, like, it's gone too far. Gotta chill it down. I understand you want to dunk on John Byrne or not dunk on John Byrne or whatever, but like, you guys are just like too far. I think that Tom King on some level got that message when the whole dust up with Jay Lee happened, and he was going after Jay Lee and all that kind of stuff is going on. And then I think somebody, or maybe Tom King himself, I don't know, at some point, somebody like tapped on Tom King's shoulder and was like, hey, you're coming off like an ass. And this guy, had his pet die, and you're not making your point. So whatever point you think you're making, you're not making it. And he's like, okay, I got to step away. And I there's that moment of like the light bulb went off, like, hey, maybe I'm coming off as an asshole. And I hope that light bulb goes off for more people, because like a lot more light bulbs need to go off. Anyway, I went on a super long tangent there, and now there's a million questions. But anyway, I don't know. I'm not going to do a video of like the guy who burned me in the shop, because it's personal business, and I think I keep myself sane by not going into personal business. And just to be transparent, honest with you, I think if I ever open that door up where it truly became an angry rant, and of all the videos I've done more than 1,000 of them, way too many. There's very few where I'm usually emotionally invested in what I'm right. I'm not just blah, blah, blah into the video. I'm emotionally invested into what I'm talking about, but I'm not like super burning pissed about it. That's only happened a couple times. There's a few videos, and people usually recognize what ones those are. I remember when, I think right when the pandemic was going on, DC was making a bunch of plans, and then Marvel, came out with some dumb plan, and it was like, enough. I mean, I remember Yoel was like, oh, you got pissed. I remember these things going. But anyway, that's sorry. I went way too long with all this. Now I'm scrolling down in trying to find. Yeah, 82. It is. That's what my wife thinks too. Yeah. I don't mind. So Bindus, he drives me nuts the way he writes, all the characters sounding exactly the same. But I will say, in terms of, you got to say something, if you're going to say something nice about somebody, Bendis has a passion for comics. He does. From what I understand, he, some of the treatment of some of the other people that he works with is not so great. But, he does, when you listen to interviews and everything, he's not like, I think he wants comics to succeed. And yeah, he's not bad. Anyway, 77 watching, 22 likes. Well, nobody cares about likes, so I don't mind. Anyway, yeah, we were talking back and forth. Yeah, Twitter, yikes. Yeah, funny is a bit of a stretch, but my point there was that time changed and then it moved. This is a good question. Why should the personal life of a creator ever affect anyone's enjoyment of the work? I think it doesn't. To me, I'm only speaking for myself, and I'm curious what other people think. I think that in most cases, the personal life or whatever kind of stuff's going on with that creator, most people will ignore it for a long time, and then I think it hits this strange tipping point where it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, and then finally, like it's like enough is enough, and then it all starts to matter. It's like then like the floor drops open, and suddenly everything seems to matter. And I think what also has happened is, so many people have talked about it that, we all get kind of wound up about it. And I think, man, this is going to get me a bunch of people hating what I'm about to say, but the whole way people are wrapped up in Trump as a pro or con has got a lot of people just on so much edge that even things that would have rolled off our back either way 3 years ago, nobody is letting roll off their back now. And it's like, so everybody is super, super worked up. And I just hope the pressure can be, please. I think people should separate art from the artist as much as they can, but I also think that the artist can push it so far that it becomes impossible to. That's the problem. And I also think, this is a much harder thing to say than we need politics out of comics. That's an easy way to say it. But I think what a lot of people actually mean is, we need for there to be this separation. We need to be able to read Iron Man and not feel like we're reading, whatever personal kind of grudge that Dan Slott has. And it's that people identify it as politics, but I don't think politics it's not the right word. It gets off into other things, as we've talked about. It's more that, the comic shouldn't be so transparent to the artist. I think that most readers, and I may be wildly wrong about this, but I think most comic readers want to separate the art from the artist. I think everybody kind of goes into it wanting that. And I think that at times we're forced to make those connections, either by the artist who forces us to do it by either very kind of preachy writing or transparent writing. Sometimes we're forced to do it because, people make a million videos about it and you can't read the comic without hearing what a million people said about that comic and the person who made it. I think that's kind of Tom King. He's in that zone now where, to a lot of people, when they pick up, Strange Adventures, for example, or something he writes, it's going to happen with Bat Cat. People are going to have a hard time not bringing all their grudges with Tom King into the picture. And who's to blame for that? I mean, it's a little bit of everybody, including Tom King is a little bit to blame for that. That's unfortunately, that's kind of life. I don't think we can, I don't think we can just wave a magic wand and say, just separate. It sounds good. And I think most people want to, but then you get like Rick Remender and other, I mean, there's just some, God, it is, everybody is on edge. And I just hope that the pressure can, I need to wait until I got some successful books on it. Yeah, I'll drop some. No, I never will. I always do. Yeah, I don't get, I don't know. You see Perch get scared? No. I'm generally pretty good. I've seen a lot of crap. So, but again, like you got Aubrey Sitterson. Yeah, I mean, I think I think a lot of people are kind of realizing that, in many cases, many of their friends kind of cheered them on. It's kind of like when you're at a party and it's like, go ahead, drink, go ahead and let's roll this car down the hill. And, hey, it'll be totally fine to get in this shopping cart at the top of, one of the hills in San Francisco and ride it down. It'll be fun. Let's try it. And I think people are kind of coming to the realization like, hey, maybe my friends are dicks and they were getting me to do things, cheering me on when they should have been saying stop. And I think that's slowly happening. Anyway, all good stuff. We'll make it. Anyway, I'm just let's see. Thank you everybody, by the way, who joined and has been listening to this chat. It's been a lot of fun. It'll continue to be a lot of fun. It's all good. I'll change this page. Hey, here's something fun. While we're talking virus, there's a fun little thing that came up. As long as I'm showing some, this comics ish related. Why not? The kind of the zone of effective masks. It's so weird. I was thinking today as I was going into the grocery store, and everybody has a mask on, of course. And I'm like, man, if I was in a coma for like the last 8 months, I wake up and like the doctor, for whatever reason, this would be the best prank, by the way. If you were a doctor and you're like, for some reason, somebody was like stranded in Antarctica, or they didn't know what was going on, just shoot them out into the world. Don't tell them, and be like, somebody's walking around like everybody's wearing masks. Like, how bizarre would that have been? Like, you have those, like, you're in the DeLorean and you fast forward to the future and you get out of the car and you're like, what the hell? Everybody's got a mask. I mean, what would you think was going on? But anyway, it's a fun time. I like how Mysterio finally is. It is his time. It's clearly Mysterio's time. He's on board. So overall, I mean, lots of stuff. Here we go. What do we have? There's some more questions in here, but then we started talking about a lot of stuff. Did DC or Marvel do something about helping those that were treated badly by the federal government when Katrina hit? I don't remember any Katrina comics, to be honest. Maybe, but I don't think so. Is there a foolproof way not to get canceled? Don't have social media. That's a really good way to do it. That's pretty effective. And I also think just care less. It's interesting because when the cancellation kind of wave starts coming, the people who completely blow it off from the very beginning, it tends to wash out very rapidly. If you feed it, if you even give the slightest indication, even seen that it's going on, it's like, then the game is afoot. And I think if you ignore it, you're probably in good shape. If a creator you love says something that bothers you, it does become hard. That's what I said. It starts to inject into your life. We need to go back. I want to go forward. Actually, the opposite. I want to go way forward. I just want to skip right over all this kind of stuff as fast as humanly possible. As what's going on. What else do we have? 3 Jokers might not be in continuity. It's not, although some people have said it kind of is. But the official answer is it's not. I think it will be in continuity if it gets popular and people are like, hey, you should bring those story elements in, and the writers want to, then suddenly it will be in continuity. People complain about me, about that, but good is good. I don't know. Oh, man. And see, this is what happens when I get too far behind. I don't know. Perch wants to be humble. I don't know. I do my best. There's a lot of people who are way more talented than me. That's the thing. So, Oh, see, I should read down. Mark Wade's one, I separate art from the artist. He writes very well in almost every instance and doesn't get preachy in book. I think that's pretty true. I think Mark Wade, it's one of those cases where his name's been out there so much. And I think this, in many cases, it's even before all the more recent stuff, Wade would go to conventions and would lose his temper. I mean, he would do things that it's like a classic example of him almost daring people to say, hey, the next time you pick up Kingdom Come, remember me acting like a crazy person at the New York City Comic Con. And it's like, just don't do that and you'll probably be fine. It's great. Stitterson did delete a lot of tweets, just for what it's worth. And I think there was some of him being a showman and kind of being a heel on purpose. And then I think he done. What are some of the best writers and comics who cover the issue of politics? Man, that's a great video topic, and I'm not going to do it justice right now, but there's been some great ones. I mean, politics has been covered in comics a lot through the years, and I think there's been a lot of really good nuanced stuff out there. I would give a really crappy answer, and I can hear somebody's voice in my ear right now that I chat with who's kicking me in the head right now for not remembering a super obvious name. But there's some people in Vertigo in the 90s, I think, who covered politics very, very well. What do I think of the new colored walking? Do I think it will do well? I think it will do okay. I mean, it's not going to do pop big numbers, but it does fit into the realm of like making more, squeezing more juice from that lemon, or what, I don't know if that's an analogy. Anyway, I think that's, I think it will do okay. I'd love to talk to somebody who uses Streamlab constantly and knows how to put up with the constant jumping around of the tweets. As freaking annoying as hell. Denny O'Neil, that's a good. Denny O'Neil is one of the right. Denny O'Neil was really good, I think, for sure. I think he handled politics in a really good, elegant way. But there's some others. I think Greg Rucka was better in the past. I think he's less good now. I think a lot of people are less good now because I think politics themselves has become such a circus. I mean, a lot of people compared at different times politics to the WWE, but it really feels like that comparison is super close now. like we're really, really close to all that. Ditko, so Ditko's being talked about in the chat. Ditko is a whole other story, so I'll do a video on him, but he is not he's a complicated one to go into. He is Ditko has got a lot of not crazy, but he had a lot of beliefs. I'll put it that way, and he was an interesting guy. Not the most friendly guy, but a solid guy, if that makes sense. I don't know. You don't speak ill of the dead, but he's an interesting guy for sure. This whiskey is very good, by the way. The great part about it is a lot of whiskey, when you're talking a lot, like I'm doing now, it starts to burn your throat right out. And this whiskey is just super, super good. It's just smooth and it's going down. I can take little breaks and kind of sip it a little bit. It's all very good. Very good. I think that I'm noticing a lot of creators right now are starting to undo the block bots that they did. And I think that's a good thing. I think part of it's by necessity. I think they need that audience. And I think that, who is Jeremy Whitley, who was complaining that he got blocked by a bunch of creators because somehow he made his way onto a block bot. And it was funny because if you're reading down this thread, he's like, how in the world did I get blocked? How did this happen? And then you see some people start talking like, oh man, did I get blocked by a block bot? That's so unfair that I get blocked by a block bot. And like a bunch of people are like, yeah, tell us more. And then other people are coming in going, no, it can't be. It must be Twitter having some kind of problem. It's like that thread was comedy gold. But I think as so many people have blocked each other and the bots are kind of all over the place, I think people are kind of realizing that, hey, maybe it'd be a better idea to just, block people on a case-by-case basis when somebody does something that really pisses you off, and not run bots. That seems like a good plan. I don't know. Yeah, go figure. Yes, this is a great recommendation. Jonathan Ross, there's some great stuff about Ditko out there. It's one of the reasons why I haven't gone into him much, because there are some people who cover that really, really well. Someone showed me a panel. Well, no, so I think O'Neill, the thing is, and I've done this from time to time, and for whatever reason it always pisses people off, is you can go back in time to plenty of comics in the 70s, 80s, 90s, all different eras, and you can find super cringy panels. Always. This isn't a new development. You can find weird art mistakes. You can find horrible spelling. I mean, like, what's funny is people sometimes go, man, comic standards have really fallen. There's so many misspellings now. It's like, I got news for you. In the 70s and 80s, there was like an insane amount of misspellings. There's at the big two, at everywhere else. I mean, like, this is not a new phenomenon. But there's cringe everywhere. I do think, though, that you start to look at writers as a whole, and you can say, I don't think there's a single creator out there who can claim they've never done a clunky story. I mean, Rachel Pollack is somebody I think does a lot of great work, and she's done some clunky stuff. Denny O'Neill absolutely has done some clunky stuff. There's John Byrne has done crappy stuff from time to time. Everybody has, and I think that would be a fun video too, of like going back and looking at some of the things out there. There's just so many through the world, but I think it's a little bit more obvious now because when people, one, it's easier to complain or clown about something. You post it up to Twitter and a bunch of people retweet it and they see it. And then in many cases, it's the same kind of thing as what we were talking about before. Creators could just go, hey, I'm not going to pay attention to that. Or I'm like, laugh along, like, yeah, that is kind of silly. And like, there would be no heat. There would be no fuse lit. But instead, like, people get really up in arms about like stupid stuff. Like, hey, I remember, God, I want to get the name right, but there was the cover. Matt Rosenberg did the issue of Uncanny X-Men. I think Salvador LaRocca did the art. And there was a cover where either Wolverine or Cyclops or both, I think, had 6 fingers. It was just drawn. An extra finger was in there. And, the cover gets posted around Twitter and people are like, hey, look at this crap. And like there's some people in the X office got so pissed off, like really legit angry. Whereas a better way to handle it would have just been like, oh yeah, simple. This is what happens when you put so many comics onto the market so quickly. Or everybody makes a mistake. LaRocca's made, I don't know, how many comics has that guy done? 1,000 comics, it's like, yeah, everybody makes a mistake here and there. Ah, ha, ha. Hey, this is kind of funny. And then there would be no issue. Like everybody would be cool. There wouldn't be this kind of fight between it. But instead, people like immediately pick up arms and start blocking people and shit. And then it becomes personal and people are pissed off. And it's like, you know, it's okay to laugh at things. Every single person, everyone. I mean, a couple of my videos have bad audio. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. There's a few out there. There's a few in there that are not great where the audio is concerned. And I mean, you know, it's okay. Yeah, politics are nutty as a gibber. I don't know. I don't know what a gibber is either, but yeah, they are nutty. I don't know. Anyway, Al Ewing blocked everybody in the world, and he ran some pretty extreme block bots. I don't know why you sign up for Twitter, you put your stuff out there, and then you run just really significant block bots. I mean, at some point, you know, it's just too many. And yeah, cringy piles for me, it is part of the joy of comics. I love looking at this stuff, and it is funny because I realize that the tone right now. But like I posted those pictures of Spider-Woman vomiting. She like had a 3-issue run of vomiting, and I was like, "This is what's going on here." And man, again, people got so pissed. Like, why are you making fun of this? I'm like, because it's just drawn up. It's funny. I mean, that's why I'm making fun of it. It's funny. What are you gonna do? Anyway. Rachel Pollack. Yeah, I need to do a video on Rachel Pollack. Her Doom Patrol run. It is sad to me that Grant Morrison gets all the love on Doom Patrol, because I think Rachel Pollack did a better run than Grant Morrison by a mile, and I think that I don't know why. It's kind of the same thing. Let's see if I can piss off more people. It's the same reason, by the way, right now, because they did the casting for Miss Marvel. And a lot of the Hollywood Reporter, a lot of the articles are writing that, hey, Marvel finally has their very first Muslim superhero. And it's like, you know, Dust would like to say hi. And then others. There's been other cases, but Dust was a character in the in New X-Men, and you know, and I think showed up in Astonishing. I think was briefly in Astonishing X-Men, kind of as a bit character, but was there. And so I think a lot of comic fans see that and they get annoyed at Miss Marvel, which is kind of the wrong place to get annoyed at. But they get annoyed at Miss Marvel, like, hey, you know, we've been buying your comics, collecting them, reading them, and what the hell? You know, you had this character before. Why are you not, you know, why are you not remembering kind of what you did? We remember because we paid for it, and that irritates people. And I think that's where I think some people misunderstand why people are annoyed when people get upset at seeing these articles saying Miss Marvel is the first Muslim hero, because she's not. That's why they're upset. Yes, I'm sure there's some people out there who just hate Muslims and women and all that. I'm sure that there's some, but I don't think it's nearly as many as people think. And I think what gets people irritable is when they feel like they're being told to like something, and especially they're being told to like something with some untruths in there. I think that's what pisses people off. And so if people would understand that, it's like, number one, hey, you had this hero back there. Maybe, like, what is Dust doing nowadays? Is she on Krakoa? I mean, I haven't seen many comics of Dust hanging out and partying on Krakoa. But no, we've seen her since the Dawn of X stuff has come out. But like, maybe you should do something with that character. I'm just saying, you're going to get made her, you can do something with that character. It's nuts. Anyway, the Mount Rushmore of comic writers. I mean, Claremont, for sure. Probably Alan Moore. Denny O'Neil, I think, would be there for me. I think, I don't know, this gets weird because there are different writers at different eras who did different things. So, I mean, there's kind of people I absolutely enjoy. I think Bill Williamson is somebody I enjoy quite a lot. I do enjoy Rachel Pollack. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of people. So, you know, anyway, there you go. We have a different. It's not being told to like something. It's appealing to the 95% of everyday people who don't read comics. Yeah, that too. I think that also annoys. Well, I think this also annoys people is when it feels like you're pushing comics. You're pushing stuff in comics at people who are not reading comics, and the people who are reading comics and buying the comics are kind of annoyed that it's like, hey, remember us, the guys who are funding your business, you should do something for us more. I think that's part of it. But I think that if you're wanting to be true to it, I think that you should, say, hey, Miss Marvel, the first, the biggest Muslim superhero that Marvel has done. I think that would be true. I think definitely there's been more comics, more things sold with Miss Marvel. I think that'd be a true statement. But I think you should, if you have this history, you have this continuity, you either got to kind of remember that you did something in the past or not, but you can't be surprised when people get pissed. I think that's the part that bugs me, is like you can choose to lead with whatever you want with marketing, but you shouldn't be upset when the people who are buying your comics and giving you money are complaining about something that they gave you money for. Like you took their money. So, well, what am I saying? I don't know. What's my opinion on Chuck Dixon? I like Chuck Dixon. I think Chuck Dixon is fine. I think he's got some great stories under his belt too, for sure. I think there is a lot there. They don't talk about Dust because is that true that she was co-created by Ethan Van Sciver? I thought Dust showed up earlier than that. That was in the Grant Morrison run, but I could swear maybe Quietly was there and then maybe it was Van Sciver. I don't know. I don't think this is why though. I think it's more they don't want the hijab. They don't want that image. I think they recognize that it's not as market friendly as what they have going. And I think there's this obsession with stuff of like, we're doing it the first. This is the first. It's the same thing where they go, Captain Marvel, the first female superhero movie, which was one of the weirdest ones. Because like, hey, Wonder Woman was like 2 years ago. And, there's Catwoman. There's been a bunch of like, what are you doing? They did the same thing with Black Panther. It's like the first black superhero movie. It's like, well, but there was Steel. I mean, there were others. I'm just saying. I mean, it anyway. Oh well. It's cheap marketing. To me, it's just cheap marketing. It's like, the nuance and all that stuff's a little harder to do. So it's like, hey, it's the first one. Just go. There you go. Yes, she was co-created by Van Sciver and Morrison. Oh, there you go. I did not know that. I still don't think many people care about that. I just think it's laziness, to be honest. But maybe there's some weird things. Like I said, there's contracts in comics where they're using the Mississippi as the bounding line. I think anyone saying, hey, we don't want to promote this character that we created because the artist on some of the early issues that was like 10 years ago is a guy that's now doing something we don't like. I wouldn't be surprised that pettiness does exist, but I think this comes down to laziness, to be honest. That's what I think. But where else? You murdered. What's going on here? They don't owe us that. We bought comics. They give us comics. No, for sure. Nobody owes anybody anything. So we're here. Sorry, we're all over the place. What we talked about. Yeah, I mean, they make comics. We buy comics. You get fan investment into that comic. You get fans who are emotionally tied to this character. Yes. Nobody is forced to then respect that relationship, but you'd kind of be crazy not to, because you're getting these, comics is almost a lifetime subscription. You get people who are in. It's like a non-hazardous for your health cigarettes. You get people who are always in on comics, and they read them and everything else. So if you dismiss that you're just kind of, you're losing business for no apparent reason. Nobody is forced to do anything, but it would be wise if they did. And I think it's you bring out these characters, you bring out these concepts, and I think it's better for you if you leverage them. I mean, that's just my perspective. No, of course, you don't have to be handcuffed to these things, but you also, I don't know, I'm a stickler for details, right? So I think that it always will rub me the wrong way if they say, hey, Captain Marvel is the first female superhero movie, because it's demonstrably false. We know that's not true. And so when I object and say that's not true, I'm not saying I don't like Allison Brie and I wish she would smile and man, it'd be nice if she was wearing that suit with the thong up her butt and all that kind of. I mean, I'm not saying all that stuff. I'm simply saying what you said is not true. And I think that it is what it is. I don't know. Is the smile thing a thing anymore? I don't know if that is anyway. Nobody owes anything. Confirmed libertarian. I really do hate everybody. But anyway, Maybe that's also a libertarian thing. Do you know anyone who might know specific whether now? Sorry, now I have to read this carefully because I'm starting to feel that whiskey. Centauri does such a good whiskey. Do I know anyone who might know specific about which Nato or Fawcett comics Highsmith wrote? I don't. Okay, and I'll be honest. So I'll have to wrap my head around this more. Allison Brie, sorry, Brie Larson, not Allison Brie. Who is Allison Brie? Is there such a person as Allison Brie? I meant Brie Larson. Yes, I'm tired. What can I say? Mm-hmm. Anyway, there you go. I do think Jessica Cruz is going to have a bigger place in comics. EVS or no EVS, I think they're going to do plenty with Jessica Cruz. That's what I think anyway. All right. I think I'm caught up on. Allison Brie is a community. Allison Brie was going for. That's right. Allison Brie was going for She-Hulk, I think, but didn't get it. So there you go. I don't know. Am I drunker? I don't know. But Centauri does go to my head, so I feel good. I feel warm and happy. It's all good. No corona. Life's good. Well, what can we say? Marvel is heavily invested in tapping into the international market, but DC is up in the air. Yeah, and I don't think either one of them knows how to do it very well. To be honest, I don't know if they really know what to do with it. So anyway. Yeah, Allison Brie is in Glow and was in Community, and attractive looking girl. What can I say? That sounds very old. All right, so we'll probably start to wrap it up here. Why not? I want to say first off, throw some other comments or questions in the chat. I'll answer everything. I had some other point I was wanting to get to, but it just went. I pissed everybody off with the hot dog. Not everybody. The hot dog vendor analogy. Yes, people are telling me you're overthinking it. I know that was kind of, I think I even said that in the video. Yes, I'm overthinking it, but I think my point, which I probably didn't make very well, I was recording this, I know, in the car, and I was running in to have drinks with somebody. It sounds like I'm just a giant raging drunk when I talk like this, but anyway, I was running to have drinks with somebody, so I'm trying to finish up the video. The point was, I think I hold the comic publishers, the creators, a lot of these people, to a very high standard. They're dealing with IP that is world known, and I think you have to put in a lot of effort into making these things a success. And I think Disney and Time Warner and other things need to put money into making sure these people are trained and planned and doing the hiring well and kind of all that kind of stuff. Hiring, when you hire somebody new, hire somebody better than you, so you're constantly bringing that level. I think that needs to be taken seriously. And so whenever I hear the hot dog vendor analogy, it always feels like you're dumbing down that job. I know that's not what a lot of people who use it meant. I did get a chuckle that people were coming in to tell me who originated with that, and I got like 6 different names. But the point is, I think comics is a big, great thing, and I think it should be taken big and great and seriously. So that's all. I don't know why I'm pissed off. People are pissed off because they always feel that you're taking a swing at somebody else. I guess I'm taking a swing at Richard. I don't know. Anyway. It's just an analogy. It's just my view on things. Am I going to enable your super chats? I am not. I don't want to take your money. I'd rather you go spend your money on comics or something you enjoy, or even better, some whiskey. That would be great. I don't know about better, but it'll be good. And I'm also, just to prove what a crazy Marxist socialist I am, my comic that's coming out, the one that's mine, the one that's going to be super violent and kind of hard boiled. I do think you guys will like it. It will. Boy, my voice is just giving out at various times. That's fun. I'm going to figure out how much it's going to cost to ship it, and I'm basically going for zero profit on it. I'm just going to try and kind of get the math all right. We'll need to get some advice from some people to make sure I don't actually lose money on the distribution of this thing, but I'm not trying to make money on it at all. I'm just going to try and get out in the world and try and make the cost of the comic be the cost of what, try and break even. That's the goal. So that's why I'm crazy. What can I say? There you have it. But that's just me. This is fun for me. So I really, by the way, I really appreciate the people who have asked, like, hey, how can we give you money and all that kind of stuff. I really appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Very kind. But this is fun. One day we will be in a shop together, you and me and whoever is there, or we'll be at a bar or wherever it'll happen to be. We'll have a great chat, and it'll be great. That's what I want. So let's meet somewhere. That's what we should do. What comics heroes do you want to see DC have in their expanded digital strategy? To get it started, I think they're going to have to go with their primary ones. But I would love it if they dipped into kind of that secondary cast. Put out Black Lightning, put out some stuff with Damian Wayne, do some stuff with him. There's Donna Troy. I think that's where they should go all in on getting some pretty good creators and get some ongoing digital books and commit to a year and just go nuts. Don't just give them to Tom King to do a deconstruction of these characters. Give them to some people to make a really great digital run. I just read Immortal She-Hulk #1. She hardly has any clothes while she is Hulk and then transforms. I have no idea, man. The clothes, it's unstable molecules is the answer. But the clothes always seem to just go all over the place. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, come on. In all reality, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. I mean, he's that giant Hulk penis got to be flapping around all over the place. I mean, there's no way the pants would hold up in just the crotch. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. There we go. Hey, you promised us a beer. Yes, I will. Can you buy an original page from your book? Well, I'm doing it all digitally, so no. Unfortunately not. By the way, I want to give a very big thank you. A very, very, very big thank you to the absolute gentleman who sent me some original art this week. Totally blew me away. Was not expecting it. I'm humbled beyond all belief. Thank you. That was you're listening right now, and apparently you are. Thank you very much. You're awesome. Can care to explain what their digital strategy even looks like? Yeah, I've done some videos on this actually. It is changing, but yes, I'll do some more videos on it. But yes, I can go into that. Deconstructed heroes and decent exposure. What do you mean digital is losing strategy? Digital is not a losing strategy, but doing it the way they're doing it now, probably it is. They need to actually have you can make money off digital. We see it. We know you can do it. We can see it over in Japan and other regions that you can make money off digital. It's just, for whatever reason, here in the US, it's like, let's find our own way and not copy the people who are successful, which is just well done. That is solid thinking there. You see, Perch, you don't have everyone. I know I don't. I love everybody. I'm a lover. No, I just hate all the political candidates. That's who I hate. But I live up here in the Seattle area, so it's there's lots of candidates to dislike. Anyway, I really want to thank everybody who came in. We crossed 100 people here, which is nuts. Again, I saw that. I don't pay attention to the number, but every now and then I drifts up to the corner and you're like, holy crap, as people showing up to listen to me ramble. That's awesome. Thank you for everybody who supported the channel. You guys are guys, women, men, everybody, whoever, all the genders. Thank you for joining in. Is there one word that encompasses the people? I don't know if that's fair game. I had somebody tell me earlier today that people was a no-no for one of the classifications. I don't know. I need that all-encompassing. Thank you. I'll just say thank you. There you go. I'll just drop it completely. Thank you, everybody, for coming on and supporting my channel and all the great comments and everything else. I really, really appreciate it. It's great to talk to you all, even if it's one-sided right now. We definitely have to get if you happen to be in the Pacific Northwest, let's get together for something. You more or less can get together sort of for beer or whiskey or scotch, whatever else. I'm buying, and we will do. Wait a minute. We gotta just hang on. I gotta disagree with you on BP, Perch. What BP? Black Panther? BP oil. I do not know what it is. Well, we'll figure it out. Anyway, if somebody's disagreeing, that's okay. No one ever apologized for disagreeing with me, by the way. You should, I hope. It always weirds me out when people are like really, really all in supportive. That's weird. Anyway, I do not know what BP was the first mega blockbuster. Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, of course it was. You inserted the word mega blockbuster in there. So yes, it definitely was the first mega blockbuster black superhero film. It was, but it wasn't the first, it wasn't the first black super. It wasn't the first mega block. It's all about the details. That's people work, people. Yeah. I agree with this. What can I say? Hey, why not hand off, pass it forward? Apparently, so we're closing it down here. But if you want to continue, you murdered that guy. Click on that. He says he's going to be live streaming just a bit after me. So head on right over there. Anybody else who's doing this? I saw some other names pop up that definitely have channels. Lots of good stuff. Send me yours. I'll figure out how to promote you. Always good. And if you ever want to join, and I feel bad for Robert, I don't think he's still with us anymore. I hope you don't think I'm ducking you. Not at all. I'm always happy to have some guests on this show. So if you'd ever like to be part of this, let me know. I'll send you the link. We can get you in here, and we can have a great conversation, and it's all good. Have yourself a really nice weekend. Drink some nice liquor or whatever you're going to do, and stay safe. Wear your Mysterio mask. It'll all be good. But most importantly, thank you again for joining, and thanks for listening.